debate night in Virginia. A historic election.
Virginia needs a governor who will not casually dismiss these threats to our economy.
Setting the tone for voters across the nation.
Her plan is to make Virginia a sanctuary state, not on my watch.
Will Democrats take over the Commonwealth? Or will Republicans remain in the governor's mansion? Tonight, hear from Democrat Abigail Spanberger.
I know we need to get to work to lower child care costs on day one.
And Republican Winsome Earle-Sears.
I'm always going to be for lower taxes, no matter what.
On the issues that matter most to you.
I understand the purpose of taxes, but when is enough enough?
I really don't want a data center over here.
In their only live televised debate, Democrat Abigail Spanberger and Republican Winsome Earle-Sears take center stage to win your vote as Virginia's first female governor. From your local election headquarters, live from Norfolk State University, this is the Virginia Governor's Debate.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's debate. I'm Deanna Albritton, anchor for WRIC in Richmond.
And I'm Tom Shad, anchor at Wavy TV and Fox 43 here in Norfolk, Virginia. We have a live audience watching along with you tonight. You're able to watch the debate in every television market in every county in Virginia, from Roanoke to Norfolk and from Northern Virginia to Richmond.
But before we get to the questions, let's go over the rules. You will each have 60 seconds to answer a question. Rebuttals and follow-ups get 30 seconds. Candidates, when time is up, you'll hear this bell. Each candidate will also have 30 seconds for a closing statement. And with that, thanks for joining us, candidates. Ms. Earle-Sears, you're first. Tom.
Thank you, Deanna. We want to begin tonight with a topic that may be the only thing that unites all residents of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the dreaded car tax. Ms. Earle-Sears, you have said that you will axe the car tax in your first year in office, but you will have to replace the revenue for local governments. So how will you come up with just over $3 billion every year? You'll have 60 seconds.
Yes, thank you for having me, and it's a wonderful time to be here, this momentous occasion. This is my former place that I actually represented, Norfolk State University. So on the car tax, we could have gotten rid of that this year because Governor Youngkin put it in his budget that we could get rid of it, but unfortunately the Democrats decided against that, and so my opponent, she says she's going to get rid of it too, but she's going to have to ask her side of the aisle how to do that. So we had the money, we can do it, but really what I want to ask, this first question is, Abigail, when are you going to take Jay Jones and say to him, you must leave the race? He has said that he wants to murder his political opponent, and not only that, but his political opponent's children, 2 and 5 years old.
Ms. Earle-Sears, we're going to get to that question in a moment, but first we're talking about the car tax.
I'd like her to answer the question.
We're talking about the car tax right now.
Well, that was still my time.
Yes, but I want to get an answer from you. How would you come up with just over $3 billion a year for the car tax? I'll give you 15 seconds to clarify.
Yes. So as I said, we have the money. We have run budget surpluses every year that we've been in office. Over $10 billion, $9 billion of which we've given back to the Virginia taxpayer. That's serious money, and the taxpayers want that. And when I am governor, I'm going to have a form that says, check here if you want to pay more in taxes. But my opponent needs to answer about Jay Jones.
Your time's up, Ms. Earle-Sears. Ms. Spanberger, you've said that you'd like to get rid of the car tax. Will you make a commitment here tonight that you will make that a priority, and where do you intend to find the money for local governments every year if that tax is eliminated? You have 60 seconds.
The car tax is the most hated tax in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and in fact, that has been the case for many, many years. My husband, Adam, who is here this evening, actually wrote a paper in high school about the hated car tax. And year after year, many people make promises about getting rid of the car tax, but without a plan to do it. Unfortunately, my opponent, when in the legislature, had the opportunity to lower the car tax by 10% and voted against it. Now, in the 4 years that she has been the lieutenant governor, she hasn't made the effort or endeavored to get rid of this tax. And in fact, I will work with anyone, to Democrats, Republicans, local local and state officials to finally get rid of this most dreaded tax. In fact, it requires significant planning and cooperation. But I have a history of getting rid of hated taxes during my time in Congress. I repealed with bipartisan support a unfair tax on firefighters, police, and public servants. I have gotten rid of a hated tax in the past by building a coalition, and I will do it again.
So, Ms. Spanberger, how would you come up with just over $3 billion to fund that car tax for local governments?
It requires bringing people together, Democrats and Republicans, to put any and all possible paths forward on the table. You are correct that we need to ensure that the loss of the car tax doesn't mean loss of funding to our public schools and to our first responders.
Let her clarify.
And so in working together, we will work to not only repeal this tax, which of course also requires a constitutional amendment, but ensure our communities are funded.
Ms. Spanberger, your time is up.
It doesn't require a constitutional amendment.
We're going to move on to the next
Just
topic.
a decision.
Deanna?
Thanks, Tom. Our next question is about the temperature and tone of political speech. The first example has been shaping the race for governor and attorney general for the past week. You both will have a chance for rebuttal. Democratic Attorney General nominee Jay Jones admits he sent text messages to a colleague referencing former Republican House Speaker Todd Gilbert. Here's what he wrote.
Jones. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Colleague. Jay, please stop. Jones. LOL, okay. I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. Colleague. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Jones. Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy.
Jay Jones has apologized and says he takes full responsibility for those messages. Ms. Spanberger, you have called the comments disgusting and said you condemn violence. The question for you tonight is, were you aware of these messages before they were released publicly, and will you continue to endorse Jay Jones as the next Attorney General of Virginia? You have 60 seconds.
The comments that Jay Jones made are absolutely abhorrent. I denounced them when I learned of them, and I will denounce them every opportunity I get. As a mother, as a public servant, as a candidate for governor, I denounce them. And it is important that candidates always denounce violence on no matter which side of the aisle. Violence, violent rhetoric, we should always be focused and forceful in our denouncement of it.
Are you going to tell him
and
to get
importantly, my opponent, unfortunately, only denounces violence when her side is the target. I hope
like that,
into
Abigail.
the future she will endeavor to denounce violent rhetoric and violence no matter who the victim. And tonight, Lieutenant Governor Earle-Sears, I will say, you routinely refer to me as your enemy.
Just please give her a chance to respond.
You routinely refer to me as your enemy. I'm not your enemy. You are not my enemy. We are political opponents, and tonight voters are here to listen to the policy differences that we have. So as we move forward, we must continue to set a good example for all of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. I didn't hear an answer there on the endorsement issue, so I want to just make sure. Will you continue to endorse Jay Jones to be the next Attorney General of Virginia? And were you aware of these text messages before they released? You have 30 seconds.
In fact, it appears that it was those who released the text messages and held them for years. So the public was unaware who had knowledge of these text messages for many years.
What did you do about it?
I learned of these text messages the day that they came out, and I denounced them as soon as I learned of them.
She denounces murder.
And importantly, at this point, as we move forward, the voters now have this information that was withheld for them, presumably for political reasons. But the voters now have the information, and it is up to voters to make an individual choice based on this information.
Ms. Spanberger, I understand what you're saying about the voters, but for you yourself, do you still continue to endorse Jay Jones? 15 seconds, yes or no?
I We are all running our individual races. I believe my opponent has said that about
time is
her
the
lieutenant
charm,
governor
Abigail.
nominee.
Ms. Earle-Sears,
And it's
Ms.
up to
Earle-Sears.
every person to make their own decision. I am running my race to serve Virginia, and that is what I intend to do.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. We just want to clarify, what you're saying is that as of now, you still endorse Jay Jones as Attorney General.
I'm saying as of now, it's up to every voter to make their own individual decision. I am running for governor. I am accountable for the words that I say, for the acts that I take, for the policies that I have put out.
Thank you.
I am responsible for the policies I put out and the work I will endeavor to do tirelessly for the people
as
of Virginia.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. Ms. Earle-Sears, before we get to rebuttals, because we will get to rebuttals, we have a question for you. While there is no equivalency, this next example does speak to the divided nature of our country. During the Charlie Kirk Memorial, President Trump said, quote, "I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them." Is there a place for that kind of political speech? You have 60 seconds.
Well, I think as everybody knows, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian before I'm a Republican, and I'm required to forgive people. And it's hard sometimes when somebody has abused you, etc., but it's something you must do, because not to forgive is almost like, as someone said, you drink poison thinking that it's going to affect the other person. And I want to live a decent life, and I don't want to not have peace in my life. And so as I've said before, I would not say that. So that's why I'm wondering why my opponent won't say, beyond its abhorrent and disgusting, why she won't say it is not okay and that he must leave the race, because Jay Jones advocated the murder, Abigail, the murder of a man, a former speaker, as well as his children who were 2 and 5 years old. You have little girls. What would it take him pulling the trigger? Is that what would do it? And then you would say he needs to get out of the race? Abigail, you have nothing to say? Abigail, what if he said it about your 3 children? Is that when you would say he should get out of the race, Abigail? You're running to be governor.
Ms. Earle-Sears, I know you're saying that you would not personally say this, but do you think still that there is that place for that kind of rhetoric, the example that we gave, even coming from others? You have 30 seconds.
So I'm responsible for my behavior, and what I've just said, I wouldn't say that. I would not speak that way. Look, I'm from a third world country. I was born in Jamaica, and when I was 10 years old, I saw that kind of political violence, which is why I'm asking my opponent to please ask him to get out of the race, have some political courage. What you have done is you are taking political calculations about your future as governor. Well, as governor, you have to make hard choices, and that means telling Jay Jones to leave the race. I have seen what it means when people are shot in the streets and thrown in the back of cars just for political purposes. I don't want to see that in America. America must never be that place, and Abigail needs to say something.
Ms. Earle-Sears, you're out of time there. We do have one more follow-up question for you before we get to rebuttals. One more question for you. This is on the topic of endorsements. President Trump has endorsed the Republican incumbent Attorney General. Do you need Trump's endorsement to win the race in Virginia? You have 30 seconds.
So I will take all endorsements, including the president, and I am working very hard for the people of Virginia. I believe in lower taxes. The people want that. My opponent, unfortunately, she's already said she's going to raise taxes. She's going to raise energy rates. Well, she's already voted that way because, well, that's all she wants is solar and wind. Well, if you look outside, the sun isn't shining and the breeze isn't blowing. And then what, Abigail? What will you do? What will you do? You're smirking. And you know that the people of the Southwest have a lot of energy issues.
Ms. Earle-Sears, we need to get to rebuttals. So, Ms. Spanberger, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I think in her response to the question that you asked, my opponent proved my point, which is when violent rhetoric comes from her side of the aisle, she refuses to denounce it. The statement that you read from President Donald Trump was violent rhetoric that she refuses to denounce, and this is why I
did
say
not advocate
you are
murder.
not
Ms.
Earle-Sears,
my
she
enemy.
has her 30
and
seconds.
I wish
She'll have
you
the
would
floor.
stop
Murder.
using language like that. But I am also glad that she
Not to
began
forgive
speaking
is
about
one thing.
issues
Murder
of
is
affordability,
something else,
because
Ms. Earle-Sears,
as
the
we are
viewers won't
talking
be able
about
to hear.
issues of affordability, I am the only candidate on stage who's put forth a plan to actually lower costs for Virginians.
Ms. Earle-Sears, now your turn for a rebuttal.
Yes.
You have 30 seconds.
So what Abigail has just said is a lie, that she's the only one who has affordability. Please go to SpanbergerLies.com and check that out. I don't understand why you just can't come forward and say he needs to go. I mean, we're talking about murder. We're talking about someone's life being taken from them. Have you nothing to say about that? Are you not going to address it? Really, you can't go any further. You're a governor. You're supposed to stand up for all the people. Are you saying political murder is all right?
Ms. Spanberger, I want to give you a chance
I
to
have a
respond
rebuttal to
since
that?
yes.
Once
You have
again,
30 seconds.
I have denounced political violence, political rhetoric, no matter who is leading the charge. When given the opportunity, Lieutenant Governor Earle-Sears, you have not done the same.
No matter who is leading the
And
charge
so
on
when
what?
it is important that all
When
of us set
someone
a better
showed a
example.
sign that
Ms. Earle-Sears,
said,
it's
so
difficult for us
I
to
not
hear
drink
if
no
at
you're
the
matter
both
water
talking.
who
fountain.
is
It took you
Ms.
a whole
Earle-Sears,
day to say
the comments
Ms.
something,
Earle-Sears, we
Abigail.
need to move on,
advocating
but it's
for
difficult for
political-
us to hear
She has
if
no
you're both
courage.
talking.
You
But it's-
cannot be governor.
The
No
audience
courage.
can't hear.
The audience can't hear when you're talking over each other, so we just want to make sure
Excuse
that
me,
we
I
limit
was
that
not
so
talking
people
over
can
her.
hear.
She has no courage.
We're
Okay.
going to the next topic
Yes,
now.
we are moving on to the next topic with Tom on federal workers.
Thank you, Deanna. It's been more than a week since federal lawmakers allowed the government to shut down with more than 150,000 government workers. Virginia is facing the brunt of the impact. So, Ms. Earle-Sears, knowing its impact on Virginia, if you were governor now, would you ask the president to use his power to work with Democrats to reopen the government? You have 60 seconds.
So my opponent, all summer long, has been playing political football with federal workers by trying to say that she loves them more than anyone else. Well, let me tell you what love looks like. It looks like Abigail calling Senators Kaine and Warner and telling them, go back, do your job, and vote against the government shutdown. We only need eight Democratic senators. That's all we need. And we cannot find 8. And yet, we can find 2 in Virginia. When are you going to publicly say to Senators Kaine and Warner, go and do your job and keep federal workers working? That's the way you stop the shutdown, because right now they're having to work, and especially our military, without any pay. I'm a United States Marine veteran, and it is definitely hard, especially in the enlisted ranks, to work without pay. You can do something about that. You're the one who's been talking about all that love. Well, show love,
Ms.
keep
Earle-Sears,
them in their jobs.
Ms. Earle-Sears, the question, though, that I'm looking for, the answer to is, would you ask the president, if you were governor, to use his power to work with Democrats to reopen the government? 15 seconds to clarify.
So the president has already said that he would do that. But you know, before anything gets to the president, it's in the Senate right now. The House Republicans have voted, and it's in the Senate. And all we need for it to get to the president so the shutdown stops is 8 Senate Democrats. That's just it. 8 Senate Democrats, and we cannot find any because they're playing political football, as you have been, Abigail, all this time. Love is a verb, it's a show me, it's a doing. Love is not a shutdown. When are you going to ask Senators Kaine and Warner to please keep federal workers working?
All right, we're going to go to Ms. Spanberger next on this one. Knowing the shutdown's impact on Virginia, if you were governor now, would you urge the 2 Democratic senators to vote to reopen the government until a deal can be worked out with Republicans? You have 60 seconds.
Well, importantly, when I was in Congress, when I entered Congress, I entered during the longest government shutdown in history. And 2 weeks into my time in Congress, I went to the White House. I sat down in the Situation Room with a group of Democrats and Republicans and President Trump, urging him to come to the table, urging him to make a deal. That is how we started the path towards ending the government shutdown, with leadership from the president. The current lieutenant governor of Virginia has not stood up for Virginia workers, because right now, at this moment, when Virginia's federal workforce and contractors and communities across the Commonwealth are suffering because of this government shutdown, it is only increasing the challenge that they are facing after months and months of the attacks from this White House under DOGE. The entirety of that time, my opponent has made light of federal workers losing their jobs, saying it's not a big deal,
so just to clarify,
and that everyone loses their jobs.
Ms. Spanberger, time is up, but just to clarify, then, you would not urge the 2 Democratic senators to work with Republicans to reopen the government?
To clarify, I would encourage everyone, our Democratic senators, our Democratic House members, our Republican House members, to work together and drive
Ms. Earle-Sears,
an effort
please. Thank you. Continue.
to come back to the table. Everyone from Virginia, the most impacted state in a time of shutdown, as our communities are suffering after months of DOGE and attacks on our federal workforce.
Ms. Spanberger.
Everyone in Virginia should be coming together and urging the president
time's up,
to
Ms.
restart
Spanberger.
negotiations.
We are going to move on to the next topic, which is data centers, and my colleague
Am I
Deanna.
not going to get a rebuttal? She's attacked me. Am I not going to get a rebuttal?
I'll give you 15 seconds.
Thank you very much. So you've heard a lot of words from my opponent, and she's talked about DOGE, and you know, I'm the one who started a men's prison ministry. Of course I care about people. It was one of the best things I did. We've created over 265,000 jobs. I know what it's like to lose a job. How could I make light of it? But my opponent has cut and spliced my words so that it will look like I did not care.
Ms. Earle-Sears, time is up. Next topic, data centers with my colleague Deanna.
Thanks, Tom. So data centers are expanding across Virginia, increasing power demand and expected to raise energy bills even more for all Virginians. Ms. Spanberger, what is your plan to make sure data centers have the power they need and Virginians don't get stuck with the bill? You have 60 seconds.
Absolutely. So data centers are coming to Virginia, and many localities want to welcome them. And it's important that they pay their fair share. And as governor, I will ensure that data centers pay their fair share. But we have a challenge looking towards the future as it relates to our energy generation here in the Commonwealth. We are the largest net importer of energy in the country. And that requires real leadership in contending with what is an impending energy crisis. And unfortunately, as we see an impending energy crisis, my opponent has supported efforts from the Trump administration to take millions and millions of dollars of energy investments away from Virginia. This is all the while that energy costs continue to rise for Virginians. That is why in my affordability plan, I laid out plans to reduce the cost of energy here in the Commonwealth.
Ms. Spanberger, as a follow-up, you stated that data centers must pay their fair share. So what does that look like exactly to you? Are you committing that to Virginians not seeing more price hikes? You have 30 seconds.
Absolutely. So importantly, there is currently an SCC case moving forward. And so pending the results of that case as it moves forward, it may require action within the General Assembly to ensure that large utility users like data centers are paying their fair share for the energy that they consume. For anyone who wants to view the further plans that I have to reduce energy, it is at affordablevirginia.com.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. Ms. Earle-Sears, what is your idea for offsetting the high costs of data centers, energy demands, and preventing additional rate hikes for Virginians? You have 60 seconds.
So the Virginia Clean Economy Act, when it was passed, every single Democrat voted for that. Every single one. And by the way, my opponent, Abigail Spanberger, has supported it. Well, let me tell you what it did. Speaking of no energy, it took 11,000 megawatts of power immediately off the grid, Abigail, without any anything to substitute for it. And all you want, again, is wind and solar. Well, you know, it's that little thing called the technology revolution that's still happening. And it's that little thing called the, industrial revolution that's still happening. Businesses need power. What are you going to do about that? Well, let me tell you what we are doing. We have started in the Southwest a micro-reactor program to see how we can bring energy to the Southwest and make it a regional energy hub, as a matter of fact.
Ms. Earle-Sears, you're out of time, but I do want to follow up there. So the question was, what is your plan for offsetting those high costs of data centers' energy demands? What is your plan for making sure Virginians don't get stuck with the bills? So 30 seconds.
So what we need is an all-of-the-above approach to energy. We need clean coal, we need oil, we need nuclear, we need natural gas, and we need, yes, renewables. My opponent's only plan is solar and wind. Well, what happens when the sun goes down? There is nothing.
Ms. Earle-Sears, we do need to move on to the next question.
All right, thank you, Deanna. We have a question tonight from a Norfolk State University student. Let's listen.
Young people are leaving Virginia for more affordable housing and better job opportunities. What initiatives or policies would you implement to make Virginia a more attractive place for young professionals to live, work, and build their future?
Ms. Earle-Sears, we'll start with you. How do you respond to the students' economic concerns?
Yes, so what we have done in Virginia, and what we're continuing to do, is we're bringing jobs here because we want our children who are born here, raised here, we want them to stay here, and we want them to do very well because we want them to create generational wealth, and a good education will do that. But when the education happens, they also need the jobs. And I don't know if you've been seeing, but we have created over 15,000 new business startups. Never existed until we came into office. New business, high-paying startups. And then we have created, as I've said before, over 265,000 jobs, and we have another 225,000 job openings right now. And, you know, I was just with the Governor Youngkin, out in Charlottesville, where Afton Scientific announced 200 more jobs.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Spanberger, what economic policies or initiatives would you implement to make Virginia an attractive place for young professionals to live, work, and build their futures? You have 60 seconds.
Importantly, I want to thank the students of Norfolk State for welcoming us to this campus, to the faculty and the administration. Thank you for hosting this incredible event here. And the young woman raised an incredibly important point, which is we attract people to our universities from across the country, and we should want, and I do, and as governor, I will want to ensure that when they graduate, they will stay in Virginia to start a business, to start a family, and to start their career. The challenges, though, that she mentioned are housing costs and affordability issues. In fact, during the time that the lieutenant governor has been in office, the cost of buying a house has gone up 18%. The cost of renting a house has gone up 14%, with just 11% increase even just this last year, the third highest in the whole country. And my opponent so frequently talks about job creation. Virginia has had 7 months this year of rising unemployment. The challenges are real, and Virginians need someone who will put Virginia first.
Numbers are.
Okay, we had a very spirited debate thus far.
That.
Excuse me, Ms. Sears. We've had a very spirited debate thus far, and now we're going to shift gears, and my colleague Deanna will take it from here.
Yes, we want to see where maybe there's some shared common ground. Ms. Spanberger, what quality or qualities of your opponent do you admire? You have 30 seconds.
I admire her faith that she puts into action through her time at the prison ministry that she frequently talks about, and I admire her service to our country, particularly as someone who chose to be an American and chose to serve. I think those are admirable traits, and frankly, what makes our country and our Commonwealth a special place, that people the world over come to our country to become Americans, to serve in the military and in elected office.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. A handshake. Well, Ms. Earle-Sears, with that, what quality or qualities of your opponent do you admire? You have 30 seconds.
Yes, from what I've seen, I believe that she is a devoted mom. I truly believe that. And that she is a daughter who loves her parents very much. And I do believe that she cares.
Thank you, Ms. Earle-Sears. Well, we have many more topics up for debate tonight, including transgender issues and reproductive rights. We will be back after this quick break.
As we welcome you back, a hot topic in Virginia's schools, and for this question, you will both have a chance for a rebuttal. Ms. Spanberger, we're going to start with you. Focusing on a K-12 school system, should transgender girls who are biological males be allowed to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' sports teams? You have 60 seconds.
I'm a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools, and nothing is more important to me than their safety and their experience in schools. I'm also a former federal agent, and I work to investigate crimes against children. And so nothing is more important to me than the safety of all of our children. And that work, in part, has earned me the endorsement of Virginia's Police Benevolent Association.
So would you tell Steve
Ms. Earle-Sears,
to not
Ms. Spanberger is talking. Please let her finish.
On issues related to what's happening in our schools and each individual community, I think it's important that we have parents and teachers and administrators making decisions about their individual schools, not politicians. And if we are talking about the safety of our children, I would ask why my opponent continues to support efforts to defund public safety, an effort carried on continually by this administration.
Ms. Spanberger, once again, the question was, should transgender girls who are biological males be allowed to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' sports teams in K-12? You have 15 seconds to clarify.
In cases across Virginia, I think it's incumbent upon parents and educators and administrators in each local community to make decisions locally.
That's what this is about.
Ms. Earle-Sears?
There should never be nude men
Oh
in
my
locker
goodness,
rooms.
we finally have her saying that, but you voted for that.
Ms. Earle-Sears.
Have you finally
My opponent
Ms.
said
Earle-Sears,
that
you are
now?
just intruding on
Are
time
we in
here.
agreement now? Are you
Ms.
going to
Earle-Sears,
tell?
this is Ms. Spanberger's time. I have a follow-up question for Ms. Spanberger. Would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 30 seconds.
My priority would be to ensure that local communities, importantly parents and teachers
That's
and
a yes or
educators,
no.
are able to work together to meet the unique needs of each school and each community.
girls
and
need
that is
privacy.
important. And I say that as a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools.
Exactly.
And as someone who used to investigate crimes against children. The way that we keep our children safe is by ensuring they are safe in schools, which includes funding law enforcement and public safety.
But Ms. Spanberger, the question was, would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 15 seconds to clarify that question.
Yes,
and my answer is that in each local community, decisions should be made between parents and educators and teachers in each community. It shouldn't be dictated by politicians.
Please don't interrupt. We're coming to you next.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. Ms. Earle-Sears, you say that you do not support biological males identifying as females playing in girls' sports and have pledged to sign legislation restricting bathrooms by birth sex. Does this position discriminate against transgender girls? You have 60 seconds.
I'm not for discriminating against anyone. What I'm saying is just very plain common sense. And I'm going to answer the question my opponent refused to answer, which is simply this. I will not rescind the governor's executive order. We know that girls want to have privacy. It's really that simple. And my opponent will not answer the question because she voted for men nude in girls' locker rooms, in bathrooms, and in girls' sports. She will refuse to protect our girls in Title IX, which is simply, an opportunity for girls to have their safe space. This is not hard. Are you going to change in a gym where men are nude in the locker rooms? Are you going to do that, Abigail?
Ms. Earle-Sears.
I don't think you will. What about your girl children if they came home crying and said that there was a male in the locker room? What would you do?
You will both have a chance to rebut, too, so I want to make sure that you both understand that. Ms. Earle-Sears, a follow-up question now. You said in supporting that bathroom legislation that this is, quote, a safety issue.
It is.
Are transgender students a safety threat? Yes or no, and why? You have 30 seconds.
I'm sorry, how did you ask that?
Are transgender students a safety threat? Yes or no, and why? You have 30 seconds.
So we know that biological men are larger in strength than women. We understand this. This is biology. If you look at football teams, you can see the difference between males and females. This is not hard, and that's why I'm asking my opponent, if your little girl comes home and said she was forced to undress in a locker room with a biological boy, what would you say? She's crying. What would you say? Are you not going to answer?
Ms. Earle-Sears, now we're going to go to opportunity for rebuttal now, and Ms. Spanberger, we're going to start with you. 30 seconds.
My opponent was asked about her record of discrimination, and importantly, my opponent has previously said that she does not think that gay couples should be allowed to marry. She has said that she is, quote unquote, morally opposed to same-sex marriage. My opponent has also previously said that she thinks it's okay for someone to be fired from their job for being gay. That's discrimination.
Ms. Spanberger, your time is up. And now, Ms. Earle-Sears, it's your turn for rebuttal.
Yes.
You have 30 seconds.
Yes. So again, I want you to go to SpanbergerLies.com. Listen, she's talk about defunding and all that. You know who voted to defund the police? You did. When you voted for the Justice and Policing Act. You voted for that, and you took money from the PAC that said we must defund the police and get rid of their qualified immunity. When are you going to give back that money? Thousands of dollars. I will not defund the police or get rid of their qualified immunity.
We have other topics to get to. We're going to move on now to reproductive rights. Deanna?
Thanks, Tom. Abortion is legal in Virginia through the second trimester with limited third trimester exceptions. There's also a push to codify abortion access in our state constitution. Ms. Earle-Sears, you have supported both a 15-week and 6-week abortion limit. As governor, what would you advocate for? You have 60 seconds.
So my position is that the Commonwealth needs to come together and figure out where it wants to be. It's not going to be my view. It's going to be a view of the majority. My opponent, on the other hand, has the extremist view, which is abortion up until the very hour that the baby could be born, up until the very minute the very minute. And so you would have a baby aborted on the table. What do we do then, Abigail?
Ms. Earle-Sears.
What do
Ms.
we do
Earle-Sears?
with a full live baby aborted on the
Ms.
minute it
Earle-Sears.
could be born?
Ms. Earle-Sears, I need you to ask the question that I'm asking. I'm asking the questions here, and so I want to know about what would you advocate for in terms of a limit. I know that you just said it's not about your view, but you will have veto powers if you became governor. So what would you be willing to support as governor?
So you
have 30 seconds.
So I've answered the question. I've said it's not my view. It's going to be what the majority of Virginians want. And by the way, there's a constitutional amendment, and the voters will make that decision.
Thank you, Ms. Earle-Sears. Ms. Spanberger, you say you want to keep Virginia the last bastion of reproductive freedom in the South. Do you support any limits on abortion? You have 60 seconds.
When the Dobbs decision was made, it was very quickly clear that state after state would move to restrict abortion access, as my opponent has previously supported. In states where they further restricted abortion access, women have died. Women pregnant with very wanted children, women with ectopic pregnancies were sent home, and women have died. If my opponent were to become governor, that is what she would inflict upon
lie like that,
Virginia.
Ms. Earle-Sears,
I support the Roe
Virginia's voters
standard.
cannot hear if you're talking over Ms. Spanberger.
I support
Please give her time.
the Roe standard. I support the constitutional amendment that is moving forward that makes clear the
Ms. Earle-Sears,
I support
it's difficult to hear Ms. Spanberger if you're talking over her.
I support the Roe standard, which is what this codification of a constitutional amendment moving forward would be. That's what I will support as governor, though I will not have a vote on it. I will support it. But importantly, my opponent has threatened murder to women who have had abortions. That is not the type of leadership we need here in the Commonwealth.
You're out of time. I just want to follow up.
I need a rebuttal.
Well,
Ms.
Earle-Sears, I have to follow up right now because it was difficult for me to hear Ms. Spanberger, and I need to make sure that I have clarity on her answer. So just to be clear, are there any limits that you support in terms of abortion access, including for minors? You have 30 seconds.
I support the current laws within Virginia, which include limits on minors obtaining abortions, which include limits after the second trimester. I support those, the current laws here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that is what is moving forward as a constitutional amendment here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. We are now going to move on to immigration.
I thought I was going to get an opportunity to rebut.
We're moving on to other topics. We have a lot to cover tonight, Ms. Earle-Sears, so we'll get to you in a moment on a different topic. For now, it's immigration and public safety. We're going to start with Governor Glenn Youngkin has tasked Virginia State Police with helping ICE to remove people living in the country illegally. Ms. Spanberger, we're going to start with you. You've said using local and state police for ICE raids is dangerous. Are there any situations in which you would support local law enforcement assisting ICE? You have 60 seconds.
Absolutely. I'm a former federal agent. I used to work narcotics and money laundering cases. I regularly worked on task force arrests and search warrants in partnership with local and state police as a federal law enforcement officer. Importantly, anytime there is a warrant, an arrest warrant, a search warrant to detain someone, absolutely local law enforcement, local resources should and must be employed. That is why, as my opponent has somewhat erroneously said, I never, ever would support making Virginia providing any sort of sanctuary policies here, because local and state law enforcement must always work with federal agencies when there is a warrant. Importantly, what I have been talking about, and anytime there is someone with any level of criminality, someone wanted for a criminal offense, absolutely that cooperation shouldn't just occur, but it must.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. Now, Ms. Earle-Sears, you've said you support local law enforcement's involvement with ICE raids, but critics argue that in high immigrant communities, they're seeing fewer people reporting crimes and cooperating with police. Now, are you concerned about those negative impacts to public safety? You have 60 seconds.
So I'm just going to say, folks, go to SpanbergerLies.com. I think we're about up to number 10. She's accused me of murder, which is very interesting because the very person who spouted murder, you won't even say that they should get out of the race, and now you're talking about this? My goodness gracious. We have found 4,000 illegals who are criminally here, and the number 3 MS-13 gang leader here we have found communist Chinese gangs here, we have found cartel members here, and they're here because my opponent did not vote to shut down our borders. And because of you and that vote, fentanyl came across the borders and killed 5 Virginians every week. Where were you when we needed you for that vote? And then out of your own mouth, Abigail, you have said the first thing you're going to do is to make Virginia a sanctuary state. I didn't say that. You said
Ms.
that.
Earle-Sears.
That's your lie,
Ms.
if you're
Earle-Sears,
going to say that.
your time is up, and the question was, are you concerned about people not being able to or not cooperating with police, those people who are here possibly illegally for fear of being deported? That was the question we were looking for, the answer to that question. You have 15 seconds to clarify.
So as an immigrant to this great country, I understand that the first part of obeying the laws of the country is that we have to obey the laws of the country. And I am focusing on those who are criminally, illegally here. And we don't need them here. And my opponent did not vote for the Lake and Riley Act, which simply said if you're criminally, illegally here, murderers, rapists, pedophiles have to go back home.
We're going to move on to the next topic, education, with my colleague Deanna.
Thank you, Tom. Now on the topic of education, educating children in the Commonwealth is a top issue for Virginia voters in this election, as it was 4 years ago. Ms. Earle-Sears, you have stated you want parents more involved in their children's education. Would you include parents in designing school curriculum, or should that be left up to the educators? You have 60 seconds.
Yes, so I absolutely believe that parents ought to be involved in their child's education. You know, I am my child's first teacher, and I don't co-parent with the government. And so that's why I strongly support parents being involved in education. But you know who doesn't? My opponent, Abigail Spanberger. She had the opportunity to vote for the Parents' Rights Act, but she didn't. It simply said this: if the curriculum is being changed, then I need to know as a parent. Abigail, why did you vote against parents on that? And it also said, if my child is not on grade level, reading, writing, arithmetic, all of that by the 3rd grade, then I as parent needs to know. Abigail voted against the parents knowing where their child was by the time they were on grade level. Why would you do that? Why are you voting against parents? Why are you not voting for them? Then she voted against the parents knowing whether there was violence in the schools. Abigail, this is a simple question. Why did you vote for that? Why would you vote for parents not knowing if violence is being committed?
Ms. Earle-Sears, I have a follow-up question for you.
Ma'am.
I'm specifically asking not just about general involvement in education, but about designing the school curriculum more specifically. So is that something you believe parents should be involved in, or do you believe that educators should be taking the lead and it should be left up to them? You have 30 seconds.
As I said, parents, we are their parents all day, twice on Sundays. We are their parents. We must be involved. How will we know what is happening in the schools? How will we know if our children are being educated? You know, when Ralph Northam, the Democrat governor, voted to shut down government, he shut down our schools, and as a result, there was a learning loss. And my opponent, Abigail Spanberger, when we wanted to reopen the schools, the governor immediately said upon inauguration, the schools must be open. Abigail said, no, they must be out for a whole semester. She took all that money from the teachers union, and that's what they wanted, and that's what she voted for.
Ms. Earle-Sears, you're out of time. Ms. Spanberger, should the governor and state agencies decide which books are in school classrooms, or should parents have a voice in that decision? You have 60 seconds.
I'm a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools, and just this week, I have spent time at my daughter's school for a school event, and I have emailed with another one of my daughter's teachers about her ongoing work. So she should be advised that I've had some of that communication. But it is important that parents are involved every step of the way, as I have been.
Then
in
why
fact,
did you vote against
with
the
my
Rights Act?
Ms.
with my
Earle-Sears,
ninth
please.
grade daughter, who is actually here with us in the audience, it's because of communication from her teacher that I purchased the books that she'll be studying. Parent engagement is extraordinarily important, and I support the strength of our public schools because public schools across Virginia provide
But your vote was
opportunity.
not
They
that.
provide opportunity
Ms.
to
Earle-Sears.
students everywhere. And unlike my opponent, I do not support
You on
defunding
your
public
vote,
Ms.
schools.
Earle-Sears.
I do not support taking public dollars out of public schools, as my opponent has advocated
what you
for the
say,
entirety.
but not
Ms.
what you
Earle-Sears,
do.
Ms. Earle-Sears, we're not going to be able to get to as many topics if we keep having to give Ms.
Yeah,
Spanberger
but
time
she
as you're
continues
interrupting
to
her.
lie. I think I'm up to lie 12.
But Ms.
My
Ms.
opponent is-
Earle-Sears, you
Abigail.
will have chance.
To answer your question,
Come on.
Lieutenant Governor, it was federal government overreach
moving
and
on
an
to the next
unfunded
topic.
mandate.
yeah, here
That
we
is
go.
what I told my
Candidates.
Here we
Republican
go.
colleagues
We're
at the
moving on to
time.
the
If you
next
want to be
topic now.
federal, you should have stayed in
Ms.
Congress.
Earle-Sears,
I said it was
it's
federal
time to
overreach,
move on to
ma'am.
the
If
next
you wanted
topic.
to be
So
federal, you should have
Moving
stayed
on to the
in
next
Congress.
topic now, please. We're going to go to Ms. Spanberger here on the topic of marijuana. You have stated your support legalizing a retail market for recreational marijuana that prioritizes public safety. What public safety concerns do you have? You have 30 seconds.
It's important that there be transparency in what is available on the market. As a former federal agent who worked narcotics cases, as a CIA officer who tracked transnational criminal organizations, as the only person on stage who's had bills signed into
Which is
law
why you
by
should
President
have
Trump
voted
related to
for the
stopping the
Lake and
flow
Riley
of
Act.
fentanyl
We can't hear
into
whenever
our
you're talking over each
country.
other. Please continue.
As the only person on stage who's had a bill signed into law by President Trump restricting fentanyl flowing into our country and tightening our border security,
didn't
and
follow
as the
your
only
vote.
person on stage
didn't
with
follow
the
your vote.
endorsement
Ms.
of the
Earle-Sears.
Police
What in the world?
Benevolent Association, it is extraordinarily important that we have transparency and that there is a clear market in order to be enforced, because it is in the absence of an open and clear and extraordinarily transparent market that law enforcement is not able
Don't even
to
know what you're saying.
Ms. Spanberger, your time is up. Now we'll go to Ms. Earle-Sears on this issue. The governor has twice vetoed bipartisan efforts to legalize a retail market for recreational cannabis. Would you sign a bill legalizing the commercial sale of any cannabis products in Virginia? You have 30 seconds.
I believe in medicinal marijuana. I believe it has value. But you know, I had a business, and when I had my business and my employees came up positive for marijuana, they couldn't work for me. They couldn't drive my trucks. They couldn't go in and repair anything. We were working on gas. We're working on electric. We can't afford to have people who are working and they don't know what they're doing. They'll blow everything up. Now, my opponent, I don't understand. You know, she says one thing and then she does another, or she does one thing and says another.
Your time
We
is up,
can't
Ms.
figure
Sears.
her out.
Ms. Earle-Sears, your
Which
time
one?
is up.
Who are you,
Ms.
Abigail?
Earle-Sears,
Ms.
we are
Earle-Sears,
moving on
we're
to
moving
talk
on.
about the current administration, and I'm going to be starting with you for this topic. A central theme of your campaign is let's keep a good thing going, referring to Governor Youngkin's time in office. Is there anything that you would do differently? You have 30 seconds.
So the governor and I have had many talks, as you can imagine. We ran as a team and we work as a team. And I'd been previously elected in 2001, and then I left political office. And, you know, I saw how badly our children were not being educated, and so I came back. I said somebody ought to do something, and I figured that was me. So the governor and I, as I've said, we've created all of these wonderful jobs. In fact, my opponent was before the State Chamber of Commerce and saying in January that she was running on the successes of all the businesses that we've been able to bring here. Now she's suddenly running away from it.
Just a quick follow-up, Ms. Earle-Sears. So is there one thing that you would do differently from Governor Youngkin? You have 15 seconds to clarify.
So you know who wasn't running away from all the wonderful successes we've had in bringing jobs here? My opponent. She loved everything that we've done. So why would I run away? And by the way, the things that I'm talking with the governor about, I'm not going to disclose here to you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Earle-Sears. Ms. Spanberger, Governor Youngkin is wrapping up his term with positive approval ratings, according to our Emerson College Next Star poll. Are there any Youngkin policies or priorities you would keep if you were elected governor? You have 30 seconds.
Absolutely. I think Governor Youngkin has made a strong path forward on advanced nuclear, welcoming advanced nuclear here to the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's something that I supported during my time in Congress, and as governor, I will continue to ensure that Virginia can be a leader. Ma'am, that is not true.
That's true.
I
That's
support an all of the above
wanted.
strategy, and I think
Ms.
advanced nuclear
Earle-Sears,
is extraordinarily
I need you
important.
to let her speak.
But importantly, places where I do differ, places where I differ would be on the fact that Virginia lost its place as the #1 place for business, and we have had 7 months of rising unemployment rates here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I would work to lower costs and grow our economy.
Thank you, Ms.
in the face of
Spanberger.
these challenges.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. We're moving on to our next question.
Yeah, we are winding down tonight, and we want to end with one fun question. So this will be, I think, something that will bring a smile to our faces tonight. The mother of presidents is the state of Virginia. A little history lesson here. So Virginia has 8 U.S.-born presidents. We'll start with Ms. Spanberger. Which one is your favorite? You have 30 seconds.
As a UVA alumna, I'm going to have to go with Thomas Jefferson.
And why?
Because he started the university, with all due respect to graduates of other universities.
Okay, we have Ms. Earle-Sears. Who is your favorite Virginia president?
Well, I would have to say it would have to be the very first one, George Washington. He was a profile in courage, absolutely. It is because of him why we don't have monarchs here. It is because of him why we have a constitutional republic. Without him, I don't think we would have had what we have today.
Thank you, Ms. Earle-Sears. We want to make sure that we get to closing statements, so we'll begin with you. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you for coming, and those of you who are listening. This is a momentous occasion, and it's very important. And you know, I ran a men's prison ministry, as I've said. I have mopped the floors of a homeless shelter, and I have given quite a bit of my life to service. I'm a United States Marine. I know how to defend and deliver for Virginia. I will continue to do so. I think I'm the only blue-collar worker in this race. Please support me for governor.
Thank you, Ms. Earle-Sears. Ms. Spanberger, why should you be governor? 30 seconds.
When I served as a federal agent at CIA and then in Congress, I always endeavored to put Virginians first. As governor, I will do the same thing. I will always put Virginians first. And importantly, at this time when we are seeing attacks on Virginia's healthcare, Virginia's workforce, and the tariffs that are wreaking havoc on our communities, my opponent has not done the same, putting her allegiance to Donald Trump first, no matter the cost. As governor, I will work to lower costs, protect our schools, strengthen our schools, and keep our public safety. That is why Virginia's firefighters, police, Democrats, and Republicans are supporting me.
Every Trump
that is all the
time
time we have
I
tonight.
tell you, we would be drunk by now.
That is all the time we have. We want to
Abigail,
thank you
where
both,
did you learn
Abigail
to
Spanberger
like
and
that?
Winsome Earle-Sears, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for joining us on this debate stage. One of you will be the first female governor of Virginia. A reminder to voters, Election Day is November 4th. Have a great night.